Seek leave to take note of the annual Department of Treasury Australian Charities and Not-for-Profits Commission Annual Report 2013-14.
Thank you.
Mic's not on. Thank you. Gives an outline of the work that the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission has done over the last 12 months. And I think that from the report you can see that they have been extremely busy this year, and I think highlight the value of the Australian Charities and Not-for-Profit Commission. Their website has been viewed by over 3.6 million people. More than 1.5 million people have visited the charity portal. There's been 3,100 new charities registered. There are 60,736 charities on the charity register, and there's been 303,158 views of the charity register. What I'm trying to demonstrate is that they are, I think, carrying out a very important role in helping our charities and not-for-profits in this country. This is, of course, the body that the government wants to get rid of. And one of the things they accuse the ACNC of is increasing red tape. Well, that's been we know that charities and not-for-profits in particular are very concerned about the red tape that they have faced in terms of their reporting for their various grants and other things that they do. And so on the surface you could think, oh yes, well the government has a point there, Minister Andrews has a point there. But when you actually look at the details, bearing in mind that the ACNC is the body that is tasked specifically with reducing red tape. That's what part of their role was, and it was very clear. And that was part of the reason the Australian Greens supported it, was to reduce red tape for charities and not-for-profits. So I followed up this issue, particularly at estimates this year. I was very interested in the reports that the ACNC has one of them they commissioned, which was the EY, and for those that still aren't familiar with the new name EY, it's formerly Ernst & Young, carried out a report to look at the red tape burden. And just wait for this, because in terms of the red tape burden that the ACNC is supposed to generate, it was 0.1% of the so-called red tape burden. And guess what the greatest burden of red tape for not-for-profits and charities was? It was government process. Not the ACNC, but government process. Now, the point that Susan Pascoe made, the CEO of the ACNC, made at estimates was that you need to bear in mind that some of this so-called red tape is very important red tape. In fact, it's necessary when you talk about some of the work of charities and not-for-profits. It is important, for example, that charities and not-for-profits that are working with children carry out the right processes for accreditation for their workers, for example. They also pointed out that the red tape, the so-called red tape is carried out, is keeping appropriate data. That's actually important for being able to do their acquittals, for example, to ensure that their tax deductibility is maintained. The point here being that the minister uses as an excuse to get rid of the ACNC red tape, when it's clearly now been demonstrated that in fact they don't, and in fact they help reduce red tape, because the work that they are doing, that 0.1%, helps them reduce their other both red tape, but also helps them, the reporting they do as part of that 0.1% is actually helping them doing their necessary acquittals. Then I asked, because one of the things that the ACNC has been working on is the Charities Passport, which is a document or a process that they have been developing to work with government departments so that charities and not-for-profits that work with government, because as a charity and not-for-profit you could be working with a number of government departments, and in the past what you had to do is put in all your details to this department and that department and this department and that department, all of whom require these details. So the Charities Passport, for one thing, what they do is actually then it's basically you only have to use it once. So you only have to submit your details once. And so some government agencies have picked this up and are working with it. AGs, for example. There's another number of other health department, number of other departments. Guess what? One of the biggest departments that deals with charities and not-for-profits, the Department of Social Services, has not picked up the Charities passport. They have not picked it up, the one department you would have thought that would have. ACNC plays a very important role. The government should get over their fixation with getting rid of it and keep it and move on and give certainty to that agency and give certainty to charities and not-for-profit sector.
Thank you, Senator Siewert. I move that. Sorry, Senator.